it's just bright. It's just the way it is. I was just in the vineyard, and voila, here we are. How's it going?
It's going fine, you know. It's a bit different
Yeah.
because I've been home for 45 days now, but I'm working like crazy. I'm trying to deliver more frequent content, and we also have a campaign to have, you know, free access for 3 months. So, you know, it's a good opportunity to show what we are doing, you know, because a lot of people think I do a list of numbers, you know, and it's quite a lot more than. So I don't have enough time to do all the things that I need to do. So the days just fly, you know.
Yeah, because you taste so much wine, and you also drink lots of good wine. So you are a very unique person.
Getting all the wines delivered at home is a nightmare. You know, I'm tasting Galicia, and you know, I'm expecting like 500 wines. You know, you have a guy, you know, ringing your bell every 15 minutes, you know, with a box of bottles. So it's very different, but you know, it's going well. And I was trying to keep the Instagram live to a minimum, and I thought, you know, I'll do once per week, you know, because I don't want the people to be fed up with me being everywhere, but you know, and then you show up and you ask me, and what can I say? And a lot of other friends and people show up, and you know, so I'm doing like 3 and 4 per week, which is nuts. But it's also a lot of fun, you know. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, you know, it's in these times where connecting with people is such a. I mean, it's easy, but you know, you don't see people in a group, so having conversations, and it's the only thing that keeps me going. You know, if you're the vineyard, the winery, or you are talking to people, and I think that, you know, you learn a lot about yourself. You learn about, you know, because also you have more time to spend with a bottle of wine. You know, because you're like okay, 6 o'clock. Let's try something, or let's open, like, you know, a few
things. Can you listen? 9 o'clock here.
Oh yeah, amazing. Yeah.
We're on time.
Incredible.
That was my great grandfather's clock from 1850.
Oh wow.
It's just unbelievable. I'll show it to you just in a second. Can you see it there?
Oh yeah, wow. Amazing.
Crazy.
1850. Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, so
amazing.
Very different. You know, and I'm meeting with my tasting group, you know, on Zoom, and we all bring a bottle and we talk about the wine, you know, discovery we've done and whatever. And you know, it's obviously very, very different. And you know, I miss my friends like hell. But you know, there's a lot of things you can do, you know, in a different way. But life goes on.
Yeah, it sure does. You know, I mean, you know, I remember meeting you, I think, maybe 3 years ago, and in Madrid at that restaurant, Laredo.
Yes.
And the minute I met you, I'm like, yes, we'll be friends forever. You have such an amazing, you know, everything about you, but also, you know, you're so open. You're like, you taste so many wines. You have an amazing palate. I mean, incredible. And you understand wine as a whole, because I think that as a wine, you are first a wine lover. So I don't look at you as, you know, I mean, of course, you know, you review so many wines, but you are a true wine lover, and that is very, that's amazing. And you drink like similar wines I like, and that was totally when I met. Thanks to Eric Solomon, we met, and that was really great. And then we had some amazing meals at Can Roca, which, you know, so it's that
was a very crazy day. Yeah. So I'm drinking a wine you might know.
Oh yes. Nice.
From another
from
guy, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, Raul.
I was with Raul in the Caribbean in January, and we invited him to do an event and stuff at the play, and then I realized he does not like the beach. He only has black jeans and boots. I'm like, come on, Raul, let's go to the beach. He says, no, I don't like the beach. I'm like, that's pretty funny. And of course, then your book is amazing. It's always in my living room right in front because, I always say Spain is today the most exciting wine region in the world. There's so many, 10 years ago, I didn't drink Spanish wine. And now my cellar is maybe, I would say almost one-third.
Me neither.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And also what's amazing is since your book, there has been another generation. It's like people, like new producers are just popping up all the time, and it's very exciting. But before we start into that, I want to hear your journey pre-wine and how you ended up in this role you are as one of the things you do. Of course, you write for the Wine Advocate, and how did you get here? Let's hear about your history of into wine.
I'm an IT guy that had a job at a big multinational company working in IT. But around when I was getting close to 30, I got really interested in wine. At the time when your priorities change and you maybe want to have people around for dinner and having nice food and you discover wine, it is not so much, going out and to parties and clubs and stuff. You have a little bit more money and you settle a little. Yeah, you get a little bit older and I discovered wine big time, because wine was not really part of the culture in my parents' generation. There was like a gap. And my parents' generation, they were not into wine. Spain was a poor country coming out of a civil war, isolated, and there was no wine culture at all, like they had in France. People didn't have cellars and collected vintages and bought wines to lie down. Wine was not culture, was nourishment, was part of your daily intake of vitamins and minerals and what have you. And it was boring, and the quality was not great. There was just a few quality wines, but basically wine culture that had developed a little in Jerez and in Rioja mainly kind of stopped, and it stopped, and my parents' generation, they missed wine completely. So we are fairly new into wine, and the thing is, I discovered the internet it was around 96, 97, because being an IT guy, I started using the beta versions of the Mosaic and Netscape navigators and stuff, and a friend told me about the World Wide Web, and I was there very early, and I bumped into the Wine Lovers discussion group from Robin Garr, a guy, I think he was from Kentucky, and I met a lot of the guys from New York there. Joe Doherty, who else? The New York gang, a lot of the guys from the New York gang, I met them there. And I met there, the number one food and wine journalist from Spain, Victor de la Serna.
Yeah.
Who I was reading because, I was just a kid getting interested in wine. And I met all these people. So then it exploded, it went from, drinking a Rioja Gran Reserva 1987 with my wife and my friends to going out with Victor and drinking La Chapelle 90 and Chave 90, comparing them. And it was like, wow, And it was really the internet that connected a lot of us wine people, and through the wine lovers discussion group. I could go to Atlanta and I knew a bunch of guys there. So I showed up with a bottle of vintage Vega Sicilia, and they showed up with Old Rich and stuff like that. People that I had met online, and we were doing this offline. This was the old language. And I still keep in touch with some of these guys, Brad Kane in New York and all these guys. And it was amazing. So through my, who was one of the directors of national newspaper here, El Mundo, the internet was exploding. The newspaper decided to create all these portals, the web portals. They were called web portals at the time, and they were for books, one for travel, one for money and whatever. El Mundo Viajes, El Mundo Salud, theme web portals. So Victor came to our group of friends that we had met mostly online on an American forum, guys from Madrid, from Spain, and he said, "Listen, guys, the newspaper is doing this. Should we do El Mundo Vino, the website together?" And we said yes, and we did it. And that was really crazy because, we were all doing our own job. I was working for Tetra Pak, the company that makes the milk cartons, the Tetra Pak. I was the IT guy there, and all this was a hobby. And we created this portal, and we were tasting 30 wines blind every week, and we were publishing one article Monday through Friday, so 5 per week, all written by us, and that was super intense. And that was like, so going from 1,000 peseta Rioja 87 to Chav 90, La Chapelle 90, to tasting and writing, and I'm an engineer, I'm not a writer, I'm not a journalist. My background is technical. I'm an IT guy, I'm an IT nutter. And the hobby kept growing and growing. When you get the wine bag, it's very, very difficult to escape. So I was buying wine, traveling, writing, tasting, everything. It was super intense. I'm very intense. When I get into something, I really get into it.
Yeah.
And we wrote a book on Rioja and the northwest of Spain for the World of Fine Wine. Neil Beckett. There was a collection of books, and he came to us and he said, who could write this book? And in the end, it was I wrote it with Victor and with Jesus Barquin, who later created Equipo Navazos, who are the guys that brought sherry back to life, I think, to the spotlight. And in 2000, we started El Mundo Vino around 2000. I think it was the turn of the century, 1999, 2000. And we did that, I was there for 13 years, writing and tasting blind, traveling, buying wine, going to restaurants, everything. In 2011, Jancis Robinson contacted me to see if I wanted to write for her a little bit. When I was writing here in Spain, we were tasting mostly Spanish wines, but I was writing mostly about wines from other countries. There was already too many people writing about Spanish wines in Spain. And this is the time, when wines were too ripe, too concentrated, too oaky. I was not really digging many Spanish wines. So I learned a lot about Burgundy, Northern Rhone, German Riesling, Portugal, Port, and I was trying to write more about those regions, that people hadn't heard about in Spain, and we were, preaching in the desert about Riesling and stuff, that people discovered 12 years later. And Jancis found me, and I was like the Spanish correspondent. So, I was not going to write about Burgundy for Jancis. You know, that would be weird. So I wrote for Jancis for a couple of years as a hobby. You know, this is, you know, during my free time and as a hobby. I was, you know, my my last position in Tetra Pak was business transformation officer of the cluster South Europe. So I was in charge of all these, you know, business projects and blah 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 in Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece, all the Mediterranean, Latin countries in Europe, all the interesting countries where, you know, people cannot agree, and we had it was a great time. But you know, so in 2000, late 2012, early 2013, I was really ready for a change, and I was ready to leave my job. And you know, the thing was, there's not that many jobs writing about wine that could keep you and your family independently, because the key to me was independence, you know, was not having to have, you know, sponsors or publicity, and, you know, being able to give your honest opinion and your ideas, which is what we were doing at El Mundo Vino, because there nobody pretended to make a living out of that. It was a hobby from, you know, a bunch of nutters that, you know, work like hell for no money at all. And, you know, I wanted to continue being independent. And, you know, one of the very few jobs that can do that has to come from a publication that is global, that has, you know, enough subscribers to keep you independent. So, you know, that was a bit of a problem, because there was, you know, basically only one job, and there was, you know, one guy had it. So, you know, so I was thinking, okay, I'll find another company and I'll continue doing all this, you know, IT, business transformation, whatever, going to meetings and sending emails, which is, you know, how I explained my job to my kids. And, you know, they were amazed. And they said, and they pay you for that? They pay you for going to meetings and sending emails? Most people do that. Anyway, so so I was, you know, debating what should I do, and all of a sudden Antonio Galloni left the Wine Advocate, and Antonio Galloni was doing a lot. You know, I still today don't understand how he was able to cover such a wide area, because I think he was doing Italy, he was doing California, Champagne, and Burgundy. My God, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway, he left. So there was, you know, reshuffling. And I think it was, how was it? Neil Martin jumped into Burgundy because he was doing Spain, Chile, and Argentina. And he jumped into Burgundy, you know, which, you know, who wouldn't? And all of a sudden, basically, the only job that could, you know, sustain my family was available. You know, and I was thinking, is this, you know, is this happening, or am I dreaming, or what is this? And, you know, a few days later, I got a call from Lisa Perotti Brown, the Wine Advocate's editor-in-chief. And she offered me the job. You know, it was like, oh my God, you know, I cannot believe it.
Perfect.
And, you know, and I said yes, you know. So I left Tetra Pak. I went to London to see Jancis, because I was already working, you know, for her. So I said, listen, Jancis, I've been offered this job. So if you can offer me a job, you know, I'll stay with you. I'm with you already. And you know, she said, you know, I cannot really offer you a full-time job. Well, obviously not for writing for us about Spain, Chile, and Argentina. And, you know, she said, good luck. So from London, I went to Baltimore to meet Bob, and, you know, it was announced, and they, for what Galloni was doing, you know, for what he left. So Jeb, Monica, and me, we joined the Wine Advocate at the same time, the same day. to replace Antonio. So
Yeah.
I still don't know how he did it.
He still does so much nowadays. It's amazing.
I know I do a lot, but I work a lot, but I cannot do that much. It's just
Yeah.
he must be super fast.
Yeah.
I'm quite slow.
No, it's amazing that you have your pulse on wines from the world, even though you have all the great wines of Spain, and there's so much happening in Spain. You still, and then you have, of course, South America. You have
Argentina and Chile. Yeah.
Exciting things happening there, and then you have the Jura, which is fascinating.
That is really a hobby within my job.
Yeah.
I volunteered to do the Jura. It didn't come with a job. It was Spain, Argentina, and Chile. Argentina and Chile, I think, because of the cultural links and the common language and so on. Because I didn't have a lot of experience with Argentina and Chile, and I had to learn, everything almost from scratch.
Yeah.
But then the Jura, when David Chimneck left, he was also covering a lot of region, and we hired Stefan Reinhardt, but he was given mostly the German speaking regions or German influence regions, Germany, Austria, Alsace. Well, he got the Loire and Champagne in the same package, which was a lot. It was not exactly the same. And and at the time, nobody thought about the Jura. The Jura was not really fashionable a few years ago. And
No.
if you had asked me, like 10 years ago about the Jura, I would tell you, no way. Those wines are, the weirdest wines in the world. They are unusual wines. It's something you have to learn. You're not going to like the first time you try them. You're gonna think, oh my God, what the hell is this? Huh? And I always remember, I think it was Andrew Jefford that he wrote in one of his books. If you want to get an idea of what a wine from Shakespeare's era would be, try something from the Jura. And it's true, it's a good quote.
No,
And especially when we're talking about the Vin Jaune and the floor wines. So my link to the Jura is through Jesus Barquin, the guy from Equipo Navazos, who was part of our team at El Mundo Vino and so on and so forth. He got us hooked into sherry, And I think that the biologically aged wines from sherry, so the Fino de Manzanilla, the floor wines, the Surbois wines, I believe, I have a theory because it hasn't been proven, I think the interaction of the yeast with the wine generates umami. And I think umami is addictive.
Yeah.
So when you get into these wines, you cannot escape, you are hooked. And, also, everybody thought, sherry, one of the great wines in the world, blah, blah, blah. But, we were not really drinking sherry. People were not really drinking sherry. But Jesus convinced us, and we got hooked. And from the floor cherries, I discovered the Jura. And then, but there's a lot more to Jura than that. And through a very good friend who has a restaurant in Santander, in the north of Spain, Andres Conde. Andres, yes. Well, he was already there, and he knew Laurent Macle and Fanfan Ganeva and Pierre Auvernois and all these guys. So, he could open all these doors for me. So it was Neil Martin who volunteered to do Oregon, and he was already in charge of Burgundy and I don't know what else. And I told him, Neil, you are nuts. You have so much work and you know, so many regions to cover. How the hell do you volunteer to do Oregon? And you know, he said, well, you know, it's mostly Pinot Noir, so it's somehow related to Burgundy. So you know, why not? You know, and you do something different, and you're gonna learn, you're going to discover, blah blah blah. And I tell you what, I think you should do the Jura. And I was shocked, you know. I was shocked because I was still, you know, digesting Chile and Argentina. I was like, you know, overwhelmed, you know. I was like, you know, no fucking way, you know, I cannot do anymore. But, you know, then I thought about it and I said, well, you know, maybe, why not? You know, it would be fun, you know, and I would learn a lot more and I will meet these guys. And you know, I had already met, I think, Laurent Maclay at a tasting with Andres. I think it was the only tasting he had ever done outside his winery. He
Okay.
had done it, yeah, he had done it in Santander at Andres's place. And you know, and I said, well, you know, Neil, I'm going to volunteer for the Jura. And you know, I told Lista, and I think she was kind of confused, and she said, well, yes, okay, why not? You know, nobody is covering the Jura. And it was not still that fashionable. Uh, it then became a lot more fashionable, you know, because I think a lot of sommeliers were after, you know, different wines and obscure wines, and the ones from the Jura, they are completely different. They're so unusual. They
Shakespeare.
have such
I
a,
like I
yeah.
like Shakespeare. That's a really good.
You know, they have such a strong personality, and when you try them, when you get used to them, you get hooked. And, you know, and I think the floor, I think the Sous-Wild wines really, I think the interaction of the yeast with the wine really generates umami, which gives them, you know, this kind of salty twist, and you know, and people got hooked, and all of a sudden the Jura is one of the hottest regions in the world, you know. And when I arrived there, you know, the guys from the Jura, you know, especially like Tissot, who is, you know, one of the few guys who speaks English and you know, has a broader view of the wine world and so on and so forth, you know. What the hell is a guy from Spain doing reviewing the Jura, you know? But you know, we probably a little bit better understanding of the Vin Jaune than people from other regions, if you understand, you know, Fino and Manzanilla.
Well,
And then of course,
you didn't tell him that Trousseau came from Spain? Because
well, you know,
it's not a French grape; it's a Spanish.
no, but you know, the Jura was Spanish during the 16th and 17th century.
Yeah.
It was part of the Spain. So there was some relation, you know, and even the clavelin is a Spanish word. You know, the bottle that is used to bottle the Vin Jaune in the Jura, which is only 62 centiliters, which I think is a brilliant marketing idea, to sell 1 liter for the 62 centiliters for the price of 1 liter. Clavelin is a Spanish word, so it was probably a Spanish bottle size that stayed there, you know, and people think it's a tradition. It's traditional from the Jura, and most probably, you know, the origin is Spanish. I don't think the aging of the wines Tourvois comes from Spain. I think it was, you know, an accident. I think it's proven that it's later, and it was you know, like the Botrytis wines, you know. Who would think of making a wine with rotten grapes? Come on, it must have been an accident, you know. You picked them too late. The wines were the grapes were rotten. Oh my God, I'm going to be killed. You know, I make wine, whatever. And the wine was fantastic, you know. So probably the Survois wines were also some kind of accident, you know. And they happened in different regions of the world, you know, with good conditions for that. Slightly different. The voile in sherry is really thick, and in Jura is really paper thin. Like the result, I think the finesse of the Vin Jaune comes from a very thin bale of yeast. So that's, how I ended up with one of the hottest regions in the world for a small audience, of course, because the Jura is 2,000 hectares, is smaller than some of the co-ops in Spain.
Yeah. No, but you have, of course you have Jura, but you also have all of Spain, which is now. I mean, I can't keep up, and I try to keep up, and I love to know about new things. I check out your Instagram and what you write, because it's always, and thanks to Eric Solomon and Jose Pastor, we can get. I have a little lineup here of 3 producers I've been drinking recently.
Yes.
Nacho Gonzalez. I love the Godeo. I mean, I love his wines.
That's from El Bierzo region.
Yeah, really. And then here I had this wine. It's the 18
Gran Canaria from the Canary Islands. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
From Carmelo Santana, and then from
Cuatro Monos from Gredos. Yes.
Yeah. So. We know the greatest one, of course, the Commander G, which I've been lucky to go a few times. So, it's. I mean, this is just a little scratch on the surface. Your book opened so many minds, and I tell everyone to buy your book, because it is the most.
It's hard to find, because we don't have any distribution outside Spain, really. I wrote to the publishers in the US and in the UK, and they were not interested. It's just such a niche, and it's already owned by a publisher in Spain. So we printed it in Spain, and it's sold through Amazon, and some of the hedonism wines in London, they have it. Some of the importers, of Spanish wines, they took a bunch to Australia, to the US, because for them it's also a tool to explain what is happening. Because, what is happening in Spain is just unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Because it was a country with so much potential, so many different regions, great varieties, indigenous, different, and potential to make, a great diversity of wines. And we were all trying to do the same. We were all trying to copy, the successful regions, and pretending to do, a Ribera del Duero style in the Canary Islands, where you have subtropical climate, volcanic soils and grapes with no color. So what the hell are you going to do with that? And we ended up thinking, what happens is that our grapes are not good. Because you cannot do a Bordeaux, or you cannot do a whatever. Well, of course you cannot. But when we got this generation of young people that, they forgot all the preconceived ideas and started, trying to find the character of the regions and the character of the grapes, and realizing that you cannot follow a formula. There is no formula. Formulas, they cannot travel. What they do in a place cannot be replicated, because the soil, the climate, the grape varieties, the grape varieties can be copied, but you cannot copy the place, and it's impossible, and when we forgot about this and we started finding our own way, that's when it became really exciting. And we have, there was a few pioneers, and I think, for example, this wine from Raúl was the wine that put the Ribeira Sacra, on the spotlight, and brought the Ribeira Sacra to life, because the region had been doing just simple oak wine for consumption, before the next harvest was ready, and if you look at the photographs of the vineyards there, it's unbelievable. It's one of the most amazing wine regions in the world. And you go to some of these vineyards, and there's so much energy.
Yeah.
You feel the energy, and you think, this vineyard has to make great wine. Has to make great wine.
No, truly. When I went to, it's amazing that, first of all, where can we get your book? And I have 2 copies, but where can we get your book in the US? Is it on Amazon still?
I think the only place is
Okay.
Amazon. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make sure.
Unfortunately,
I'll make sure.
you
I'll check
know.
it out. Make sure because everyone should have your book because this book is. I mean, of our time. This is the most current book in Spain. Period. I mean, there's anyway. I can't even. I mean, I'll do a different post on that. Let's not talk about that. But what's amazing is in your book, the cover of your book is Margalagua. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Now this is before I saw that book. When I first tasted Margalagua, two vintages, and I said, "Oh my God, this is the Romane Conti. This is as good as any great vineyard in the world. This is like I'm not comparing, but I'm saying that vineyard is as impressive when you walk on it, when you drink the wine from it, and vintage. I had the 18 just a few days ago. The emotion, of course, the people are amazing. The Eminati group is incredible, but the place and the wine, give me goosebumps to think about it and to be there. And that's the cover of your book, which is like, Canary. Who even knew Canary? You published that, you're like, now Canary is a thing, right?
Well, the publisher, which is the largest publishing company in Spanish language, they wanted hands with grapes on the cover, and they didn't like that photo. We couldn't believe it, and we said, no way, this is going to be the cover, and if you don't like it, you're not going to be the publisher. Yeah.
No,
and, but it's incredible because a lot of regions like that exist, and 15 years ago, the whole of Gredos made into tetrabrick wine. It was wine that was put into cartons or bulk.
Yeah.
And we had a whole region, 2,000 hectares of old vines, because there is not a single young vine, because nobody had planted anything there for 50 years, on altitude, granite soils, garnacha, unbelievable. And people thought, that is useless. We need tempranillo, blah blah blah.
Yeah. No. I mean, I had the same emotion when I first time went to Ribera Sacra for research for our own book with Jordan, and we tasted 2012 Guimaro, 2013 Soane from Envinate, and I was like, holy shit, these are as good as wines from the world. And what's impressive is, and when I met you, I realized, I'm like, oh, okay, both of us drink similar kind of wines, and here we are drinking these wines from Spain, from regions which are not well known in the world, and our emotion is the same. We think these wines are as good. Same with Commando G. I mean, Rombol Norte, that vineyard, you walk in the vineyard and your mind is just like, oh my God, how do these guys grow these grapes there? And how is the wine? So, I mean, that's the says my cellar is getting full of Spanish wines because, I mean, they are discovered by you. They're discovered by, of course, there's tiny producers also. So it's very, very impressive.
Yeah. And there's more and more guys joining this movement, which is a movement towards finding, our roots, our true origins, personality of the regions, and so on. Wow, there's a guy here asking about something.
There's a question, I don't know the answer, of course. Take on the wines of Cangas in Asturias.
Yes. This is one of the few regions in Spain that didn't have a big background for wine, and this is a region that has a lot of potential. It's between Santander and Galicia. So, and they have some local varieties that are super interesting, and that's another region. It's a place. One of the few places in Spain where they grow Riesling, so you get an idea of what the place is like. Yes, yeah. So there's still huge potential to be realized, and but we need people that that have this mindset, because for me, the places and the terroir obviously is super important, and it's what defines the top quality. But if you don't have someone who understands this and can realize the potential, you end up with nothing. So
Yeah.
you need people, and I think the people are the last link in the chain, and they are, probably the most important. And you probably do the same as I do with Burgundy. You select your Burgundies by grower, not by village, not by winery. You decide to drink a wine from Jean-Marc Rouleau, not a Merceau,
Yeah.
But of course, the terroir is super important, but the grower is the last step, and is the one that defines, what quality goes into the bottle.
Yeah. That's a good question. Your opinion about Priorat wines, because they've changed so much from the beginning to what they are now. What is your current thinking of that?
Yeah, we have a lot of Mediterranean climate regions in Spain, because we do have the Mediterranean Sea, and those have been not really fashionable, because people are moving towards cooler climate, lighter wines. But we have a lot of potential in the Mediterranean, and the wines from Priorat, which I think they also try to replicate wines from other regions. When they started in '89, the group of pioneers, they added Cabernet Sauvignon and Syrah to the wines, because they thought that Garnacha was not good enough, and don't even talk about Cariñena. Cariñena was the worst of the worst. Nobody wanted to have Cariñena. Sara Perez told me that I think until the year 2000, they sold their Cariñena in bulk. And one year, the truck that had to come and pick the Cariñena was delayed for some reason, and it was, like 1 month late. So they tasted the wine, and they said, what the hell are we doing selling this wine in bulk? This wine is fantastic, and there are places in Priorat that are much better suited for Cariñena than for Garnacha. And, and even the personality of Priorat has only been recently discovered, I think.
Yeah.
And, I had the luck of meeting Álvaro Palacios in the second half of the 90s. And I remember how Álvaro used to tell me, no, but listen, Luis, Priorat really starts in 95. And 2 years later, he would tell me, no, but listen, that Priorat really starts in 97. No, but forget about it. Priorat really starts in 2001. And you're like, Álvaro, what the hell are you talking about? Because they were finding their way, And the reality is, I think they really understood Priorat in 2008.
Yeah.
I think that is the first vintage, when Álvaro didn't put any Cabernet Sauvignon in his Lermita, I have nothing against the French grapes, but when you have a combination of climate, soil, and the grape that has been there forever, you might as well explore that. And maybe it's no good, and in some regions, I think the grape and the soil, they just don't deliver, but in Priorat, it's again a region with so much energy, and when you go there, you are hooked, And I often
had that white wine. Selma. Is that? It's
Yes, from
Selma,
Esther,
right?
Esther Nin. Yes.
Wow, it was so great. I had it at your body. Okay, here's a good question. Uh,
Hey,
hey, you back?
yeah, I'm back. You're
Okay,
back.
sorry. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was here's a question I want to ask you. Somebody also asked about Portugal.
Okay, because I have a question which says, which is the modern producer equivalent to Vega Sicilia? And if you
Yes.
think the Vega Sicilia wine is called Único, which means unique, they are unique. I don't think there's a modern version of
I,
Vega Sicilia, really.
I don't think so either. It's totally unique and its own. It's an old
Yeah,
it's an old style and a new style, which is very much unique. Yeah, único, good one.
yeah. And things like López de Heredia, you cannot replicate López de Heredia. Who is going to be able to release the wines 20 years after the harvest, the Gran
Yeah,
Reserva? It's impossible.
yeah,
It's only them because they've been doing it for 100 and something years. So what was the question about Portugal?
yeah. What about Portugal? Is it about to explode? Is it like on the verge? Is it just like, or you think a few more years?
I'm not 100 up to date on Portugal. I was
Yeah,
I was very much into Portugal years ago because
yeah,
Dirk Nipor is one of my best friends in the world.
yeah,
He's like a brother. When he comes to Madrid, he stays in my house. When I go there, I stay with them. Our kids, they know each other. We have spent so many, New Year's Eves together. It's incredible. So I was very close to Portugal before, but now with my job, it's so hard to keep up with all the other regions in the world. I have to keep up with what's going on in Burgundy, in the Northern Rhone. California, we never used to get any wines from California, and now there is a whole bunch of stuff that I want to drink, and I'm drinking, I'm getting wines from Witchcraft and from you, that they have importers in Spain. So I'm not
yeah,
really up to speed with what is happening in Portugal, but I have the feeling that Dirk is still very much
yeah.
ahead of what
Oh,
the rest of Portugal is doing. He's going at 1,000 miles per hour, and the other guys are running barefoot. But
yeah,
there's a lot of things happening. Valdecapucha and stuff like that. I have tasted some super exciting wines, and when I joined the Wine Advocate, I really wanted to cover Portugal because I knew Portugal much better than
yeah.
Argentina or Chile.
Yeah,
And it was
what about let's talk Argentina, because I mean I haven't, unfortunately I've never been to Mendoza. I was supposed to go with Paz in June. I think it postponed to next year. I've been to Bodega Chacra, Piero's place a few times, but what's the new and exciting things happening in Mendoza and out of there?
well, basically what is happening in Argentina and Chile is kind of following what has happened in Spain. Maybe they are a few years behind, and maybe they don't have the richness of traditional regions and indigenous grapes. Because the Vitis vinifera, the grape for making wine, it's only Europeans. What they have in Chile and Argentina are European grapes. They're not going to have their own grapes, but they are moving away from varietal wines. They're moving away from just naming the grape to finding the place. So, in Mendoza, it was a shift towards the Valle de Uco, which is part of Mendoza, which is a very large province that is closer to the mountains and cooler climate. And then within Mendoza, they are finding, the differences between places. So people are now finding wines from Altamira or Gualtayari. So there is a shift from grape to place, which I think is great. And it's a whole journey of discovery, because many of these regions were never planted before. So it's super exciting, and it's the same in Chile. You have incredible projects like Alcohuaz in the north of Chile, in Elqui, where they planted Garnacha, Cariñena, Mediterranean grapes at 2,200 meters altitude in the middle of the mountain. Or, in the south of Chile, they have the País. They have the País and the old vine Cariñán. So, they have also a discovery of their origin and the discovery of the places. So, when I was first given the job, and I was like, oh my God, this is hell.
Yeah.
This is hell, because they were coming from a background that is similar to what was happening in Spain. Everybody trying to do the same and replicate the success stories, and, going from extraction and oak and making the wines very similar, and when all the wines are the same, no matter what style, I find completely boring.
Yeah, no,
so I think I got there, I got there at a very exciting moment, and thanks to that, I could survive, because if I had to rate all the wines that were the same,
No,
basically, they would have killed me. They would have killed me.
No, but kudos to you, because you actually, not looking at the background of the history of the Wine Advocate, you went in and said, you went the opposite from destemmed, cold soak, new oak, high extraction. You went backwards to take the wines of whole cluster, authentic wines from original varieties, and no new oak. I mean the wine world, Spain, Argentina, and Chile, they will all thank you in years to come, because someone has to kind of go in and say, hey,
but they did it. They did it. I just talked about it, But the good thing that I have to say is, when they hired me, they told me, we hired you because we believe you are the expert. So it's up to you. It's your own criteria, and you know better than anybody else. So just go ahead and be your own. So my job is to give my opinion.
Yeah.
So to do my job, I have to give my best opinion, and that's what I do. And I just talk about what I think and the ones I like, and
that's great. I love it. I'm 100% believer, and I hope everyone buys your book. And I can't believe it's 1 hour passed like so quickly. Enjoy the rest of the wine. I am going to.
Yeah, are you not drinking or what?
No, I have some good there. I'm at the winery. I got to drive back 1 hour back home. I still have work to do here.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So, I mean, yeah, because, usually I do at 3 o'clock, and then, but thank you for taking time. Always great to chat with you. I can't wait to be with you. I was supposed to be with you in a few
I
weeks,
know.
but it'll wait because I will come find you, and I can't wait to drink with you.